Good afternoon and welcome to Rebels Radio latest interview. I'm joined by Slough Town Joint Manager John Underwood. How are you, John?
Fine, John. Fine, thank you.
Yeah, very odd circumstances, both kind of reflecting on yesterday. Obviously, the game ended being abandoned in somewhat strange circumstances. So I think we'll come on to that later. Let's just first of all start off by talking about the action on the pitch, which is why everyone's there and what we're all about. You went into the team for the first time with less injuries than you have been in the past. And how did that go from the selection perspective?
Yeah, we had a strong squad yesterday. Things are improving, touch wood, which is great. Both Searsy and Guy were both fit enough to come into the squad. We didn't risk either of them in terms of starting them, but they were on the bench. The one change we made, we brought in George for Ben Edwards in midfield. Ben had played 3 games in a week, which he'd done ever so well to do that, given how little he's done this season, and he just needed a rest. So we gave Ben a complete rest yesterday and brought in George into midfield. Other than that, we didn't look to change anything yesterday. We were obviously pleased about Tuesday's performance and result, so nothing to change really.
And what instructions did you give them? The conditions were kind of, for those that weren't there, quite blustery. The pitch was a little bit bobbly. It wasn't, the greatest surface. What game plan did you have?
Yeah, we were very clear in our game plan to go, play very direct yesterday. Make no apologies for that. We're all about getting results, and I think there's certain games where you look to go and play. Yesterday wasn't one of them. It was a blustery day. The pitch is a little bit bobbly, but more than anything, we had a good idea of what they were good at and maybe weren't so good at, and we felt that we could hurt them with getting a lot of balls into the box and turning their centre halves around. And it's not always the prettiest way of playing, but we're judged on results, and that was the thing that we knew would hurt them, and that proved to be the case yesterday.
Talking of hurting them, the first hurt came through Howard early on. Pretty much between him and Sharma ran straight through the middle of the defence.
Yeah, awful goal from us defensively. Both centre halves at fault, to be honest. And yeah, the lad got in far too easily. He finished very well, but exactly what we didn't want really. They had been on a bit of a bad run, and to give them what I'd consider a leg up, and give them a goal. Obviously gave them confidence, and what was not a good start to the game from our point of view.
No, you came back into it though and settled a little bit better. It was still quite a combative affair. There was a fair few challenges flying in, and it was certainly keeping everyone on their toes. Yeah,
it was a physical game. To be honest, I thought we responded well. In the end, I think it took us about 15 minutes to get going. But then we started creating chances and started creating difficult situations for them. I thought Scott Harris up front was superb.
Great delivery again from James Dobson for the equaliser.
Dobbo's set up both goals again, and he just keeps creating chances for us. Dobbo, he's having a great season. You got when you look at their back four, and Scott Harris as we do, who's an extremely physical player. It was his kind of game, he's physically stronger than their lads, and we put the ball into good areas, and we made it very difficult for them, and he scored 2, probably could have had a hat-trick. He laid one on a plate for Eddie, which by Eddie, Eddie would expect to score that one when he put it over the bar. So
unlucky with his lob as well.
Unlucky with the lob, yeah. We started to cause them real problems, and I think we started to realise that the game plan was the right one, and the more that we played and stuck to that, the more dangerous we looked. And I thought we went in at half time worthy leaders at that point.
Yeah, it started to kind of boil into life in that last 5-10 minutes. There was a flurry of bookings, some strong challenges. Certainly the crowd were getting very vocal. What was your take on what was happening on the pitch at that stage?
Yeah, I didn't feel it was a dirty game. I think I know they started to feel a little bit aggrieved that with some of the bookings they picked up just for half time. I think obviously the main talking point was the goalkeeper. I was a bit surprised, if I'm honest. He was given handball for coming out of the side of the area, and it appeared the ref had a better angle than the linesman, but let the linesman overrule him. So, yeah, I was a bit surprised by that one. And I think that was obviously what upset some of their supporters, and I know their manager was upset by that one, and I could kind of understand his frustration with that one, because it did, it was obviously a very marginal call. I know one of our players who was near to it felt it was a harsh one. But at the end of the day, it didn't lead to a sending off, didn't lead to a goal. Referees are going to get the odd thing wrong. And
was it right of Scott Harris to chuck himself in there to try and tussle the ball, to try and take a quick one and get involved with the keeper?
He was a bit overzealous, wasn't he? I think that's the type of player Hatchett is. I think he was genuinely trying to get hold of the ball to he knew the keeper was out of position and trying to gain advantage from it, which I can understand. It got a little bit silly, a bit of pushing and shoving, but to be honest, no more than we see week in, week out at this level of football and most levels of football. So, obviously we're going to come on and talk about what happened, and I guess what I would say is, despite what we've just talked about, we left the pitch at half-time not expecting anywhere near the kind of reaction that we got, because whether you disagree with a couple of refs' decisions, I think if he'd have sent two of their players off or given us a penalty that never was or something like that, you could kind of understand supporters showing some sort of anger or disappointment of some level towards the referee. But there was nothing there. We weren't winning 2-1 because of the referee. We were winning 2-1 deservedly. And what followed then was really unacceptable. I walked off the pitch well before the referee. I actually followed James Dobson off the pitch, and there were a group of 4 or 5 fans verbally abused Dobbo. Real kind of vile language, straight in his face from a yard or two away. And Dobbo hadn't been involved in anything. He'd not been involved in any sort of contentious incident. No problems at all, and they're just screaming in his face, and I just ushered him towards the changing room and told those fans to calm down. And I guess the bit that really frustrated and annoyed me was that one of the stewards came over and basically abused us in the same way as the fans. Rather than trying to calm down the situation, he actually made it worse.
And so did you actually see any of the things? I know there's huge amounts of conflicting advice from social media to proper, media outlets such as papers and things like that. What's your version of
I
events?
didn't see what happened with the ref. I was further on than that. Obviously, the ref always waits for the players to come off the pitch. When that happened, my priority was getting our players safely into the changing room area, not getting involved with the fans. So I was just trying to shepherd our players into the changing room. I know Bakes was further back, and I know he saw what happened with the referee. And I think the general consensus is that he, a supporter there with a plastic bottle, used that to hit the referee. I don't believe, I know there was no serious injury to the referee, which is kind of irrelevant. The problem was, what they did to him. He was massively shaken up, which I can understand. You don't expect to get that. And I think maybe from the shock of that, I know he was sick in his change room at half-time. I don't believe that was from the injury. I could be wrong. But I think it was probably more from shock. And as he said, I think he gets paid something like 30 quid to referee that game. Why would he want to come back out and walk past those same supporters?
So what actually was happening in the dressing rooms at half-time? Obviously, the physio's off in the referee's room, some of the management team off from both sides in the referee's room. What was actually going on at that stage from your perspective?
Well, we got our players into the changing room. You try and get them, we were fully expecting the game to continue at that stage, so we had to get them back focused on the football. We went in there and gave a team talk that was purely around the football. Obviously, it was around not getting involved in anything silly second half, but we were talking obviously about what was going on the pitch and preparing them for the second half. We then got word that the ref needed a bit more time, so we decided to send the players out onto the pitch. We made sure they got out there safely and over the far side, just to keep ticking over so they didn't stiffen up. We were fully expecting the game to continue, albeit with a bit of a delay. And then the referee made that decision. So, I've got to be honest, at the time I was massively disappointed because we were 2-1 up. We felt the points were there for the taking. No disrespect to Banbury, but we felt that we would go on and win that game. So we saw it immediately as a lost opportunity to put 3 points on the board. Obviously, depending on what decisions taken, that may or may not be the case.
What do you think should happen now?
I think we should get the points. I think if they replay the game, they set a real dangerous precedent. If we hear tomorrow that we've got to replay the game, what do our fans do at Biggleswade on Tuesday if we're 2-0 down at half time? Do they go and cause a scene with the referee like that? And I know they wouldn't, because our fans aren't like that, but it opens the door then for clubs to do that, knowing they'll get a replay. And I think we do. I think we should get the points. And the other issue is, if they replay it, what's this game going to be like when we go back there? How much ill feeling is there going to be? And it's a disadvantage to us to have to go to Banbury.
Okay, moving away from then, obviously disappointing. No injuries picked up during the game yesterday?
No, that was pleasing. No, we come away with... obviously, Jamie McClurg had a bit of an ankle problem, but he got through the half, and I'm not aware he had any reaction to that. So we would expect to have a similarly strong squad.
And now we can get back to talking about the thing that we're here to do and here to talk about, which is a difficult, challenging trip to Biggleswade, who haven't been in the greatest of form recently, but it's always a tough trip up there.
Yeah, Biggleswade don't get beaten easily. I know they got beat yesterday. They've got a lot of spirit about them. They've got a very good manager who we know well, who has a lot of the same beliefs as we do. He gets team spirit amongst his players, and they don't know when they're beaten. And he has got some problems. I know he has, with injuries. And we know what it's like to have problems with injuries. It makes it difficult for you. I think they had 2 centre halves go off injured on Saturday. So he's having a tough time at the minute, but that doesn't make it an easy game. He'll patch up a side and he might pull in 1 or 2. He's got good links and he's got players in on loan from higher levels, and if he needs to do that, he will. So yeah, it won't be easy, but it's a nice place to go, Biggleswade. It's a nice ground, lovely pitch, and we will go there with every confidence. We're in a good place at the moment, and we feel like we're turning the corner, and we'll go there with confidence. But it's going to be as with any game in this league, we're going to have to play well if we want the points.
Good. Well, a tough week ahead with both the trip to Biggleswade and then a FA Trophy at Margate on Saturday. Good luck, and we'll catch up with you later in the week.
Okay, cheers, John.
Cheers.